I'm on a voyage of the Great British Coast, a coast so majestic its beauty is breathtaking. A coast which produces magnificent food at world-renowned quality, and a place where old traditions are still alive and well. My first port of call is a tiny island with a huge reputation for fabulous seafood. You might be thinking I'm on my way to the Channel Islands, or maybe even the Western Isles of Scotland. But actually, my journey is starting in Essex, on the most easterly inhabited island in the UK, Mersea. It's actually quite weird because we're only 50 miles from the centre of London, and here in this beautiful place where there's just lots of birds and it just seems quite eerie really, and quite magical in a way. The island's seafood isn't a recent discovery. In fact, the Romans came here for the same thing I'm here for, the oysters. Oysters are usually considered more Mayfair than Essex, but the Colchester native oysters that thrive in the waters around Mersea Island are world famous and considered a delicacy not just on these shores, but in Europe and as far away as Dubai. Oyster fishing is the main source of industry on the island, and so passionate are the locals about their produce, they even drink them. Now, oysters and beer are nice separately, but here they put the oysters in the beer. Not quite sure about this. Let's have a taste. Roger and his son Mark have been brewing Mersea Stout since 1997. Fresh oysters, you just chuck straight in there?
Yep, straight in there.
Well, how do you think the oysters flavour the beer? Because it's not the sort of thing you'd ever put together, is it?
No, not at all. They certainly give it an element of freshness, and they also give it a salty taste as well, because the oysters are from one of the saltiest estuaries in the country.
Straight in?
Straight in,
yeah?
Absolutely, yeah.
After the oysters have been added to the beer, it's left to boil for another 10 minutes and then passed into a fermenter. After fermenting for 4 days, it's ready to be bottled and tasted.
Cheers.
Cheers, good enough.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Do you know what? I can taste that in there, you know?
I think it's good. Just that slight hint of salt.
It's salt,
in the back.
isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because of the salt, it brings out the other flavours.
Well, it's never recommended to drink on an empty stomach, and I know what I fancy for lunch. I wonder how that's going to go with my oysters.
Very well. Yeah.
So to find those said oysters, I'm meeting Alan Bird, one of the 6 full-time oystermen in Mersea. He's been catching oysters in these waters for 47 years.
West Mersea is the last place in this country where we farm oysters, naturally. We don't have them from hatcheries.
So all the oysters out there are naturally bred. You don't stock them, you don't put babies down, whatever, to rear. They're all completely natural.
Yep.
That's the last place in the country?
Last place in the country.
Wow. To see this for myself, we're off to the layings, an area of seabed near to the shore which Alan and his fellow oystermen cultivate to encourage oysters to grow and spawn.
I own it. Look, you do your little farm.
Really?
Yep. Own the seabed.
And no one else can fish on there apart from you?
That's it.
Alan, how do we actually catch oysters then?
We use these dredges, if you like, and they skim the seabed.
Oh, look at that lot. Wow. Any oyster caught out at sea which is under 7 centimetres is thrown back into the water, until one day it grows big enough to sell. So is that
That's
one?
Pacific, that is.
Ah.
They love Essex.
Do they really?
Oh, they love Essex, yes.
Would you keep that?
We probably would.
Yeah?
Yeah. See, this is all young stuff coming on. Look,
What is that?
see that little one there? He was born last summer.
This is sustainable fishing at its best.
And then with that one, you see, we need to get that one off.
So that's
That's attached. So if I'm careful, I can get him off of that break then. Look, see?
Oh, look at that. And you go back in and be fine?
Back in again. Yeah, back in again. Everything goes back. It's too small.
It's a long thing, isn't
You
it?
do. You have to think a long way ahead. There's quite a nice bigger one, look.
Oh yeah, it's nice. Look at that. How old do you think that is? Al?
Probably 7 years old.
Back on dry land with our catch, But we won't be eating the oysters we've just caught, because first of all, Alan has to take them to be purified. Oysters are filter feeders, meaning they can consume bad bacteria. To get rid of this, the oysters are put into seawater, which is exposed to UV light, killing any harmful bacteria. The oysters feed off this clean water for 42 hours, which makes them safe to eat. They are then graded by weight and packed live in seaweed, which acts as a kind of natural bubble wrap. Then they're shipped off to the top restaurants of London, Europe, the Far East and, well, next door. This is the West Mersea Oyster Bar, where the speciality is always catch of the day. Chris is head chef, and his passion for local seafood has gained this restaurant a fantastic reputation. And I've come to try what they are most famed for. I want you to tell me the difference between these two oysters here.
Okay, well basically here we have the local Mersea native oyster.
So this is what we would have fished for
yes,
earlier?
Yeah. Only available from September through to April.
Oh, okay, and these?
These are the rock oysters. These are available all around the country, so they're more of a common oyster.
How many do you sell them?
I mean, in a busy summer's day, I mean, we may get through 600-700 oysters in one day.
They were seen as almost like posh food, that people couldn't really afford to eat them?
They were, yes, but I think, to be honest, these days, the oysters are becoming a lot more mainstream.
What do you think about the taste difference on this then?
Well, I tend to find that the natives, they tend to be a little bit sweeter and a little bit more delicate, whereas you tend to find that the rock oysters tend to be slightly larger, slightly meatier in their texture.
I have to say, that was absolutely fantastic. In actual fact, I'm going to hold one.
It'd be very nice if I could spend all day out here eating them, to be honest.
If the thought of a raw oyster still turns not tempts your stomach, then you can always try them cooked. And they too are delicious. When you buy oysters, they should be really tightly closed like this one here. If they're open, then either take it back to your supplier or discard it, because the chances are it's dead. So this is an oyster knife. You can use a screwdriver. It will do just the same job. But I implore you, when you open an oyster, you use a cloth. In the pointed end of the shell, if you just pop the knife in and just wiggle it from side to side, you'll snap the hinge. And then if you work down the side of the oyster, you'll cut the bottom off the oyster, and it will come out really clean, just like that. Okay, it takes a bit of practice, but it's well worth it. And what you need to do is to pop the shells into the coals when they're nice and grey, and let them cook in their own juice for about 3 to 4 minutes maximum. At that point, take them out, and they're nicely cooked. While they're cooling down slightly, over here, I've got some mayonnaise with a little bit of wasabi, which is Japanese horseradish. I'm just going to pop a little bit of that into the mayonnaise. It's very strong. Now, if you don't have wasabi, you can use normal horseradish. And all you need to do is pop a little of this there. Release that from the shell. It's not too hot now. And you eat that. Look at that. And nothing, let me tell you, nothing can be better.